Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where today we're going to take a first look at the brand new Z06. The Corvette C8 Z06 for the Americans out there has arrived, and my word, this is quite a monster. We're going to run through all of the details, take a look at the updated design, go through some of the facts and figures, and talk about everything to do with the latest hardcore track-focused version, the 8th generation of the Corvette. Now, I was lucky enough to head out to the USA for the original introduction of the C8 Stingray, and what an event that was out in California, followed shortly thereafter by heading to Florida for the unveiling of the convertible. Well, the Z06 has now launched. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite able to head out to the USA to go and see it in person, but I will be out there very soon and hopefully able to check it out myself up close. But I want to talk about quite a few things to do with this. Chevrolet have learnt a lot from the C8R race car, learnings that they brought into the new Z06. The car, of course, for the road, a car that can be spec'd in quite an extreme way. We're talking about things like carbon fiber wheels, the big aero kit that comes with the Z07 package, but fundamentally this is a car that has the most powerful naturally aspirated V8 ever. It's a new 5.5 litre flat plane crank car, no superchargers on this, making 670 horsepower. That's a figure normally associated when you combine a V8 with some twin turbos. This is going to be quite the powerful machine. It makes quite the sound as well. It comes about 2 years after the Stingray was originally introduced. We've seen the car, it's been very popular. I've enjoyed driving it an awful lot, but this takes things quite a lot further. The 6.2 supercharged V8 that made 500 horsepower in the regular C8 Stingray, obviously significantly underpowered, you could say, compared to the new Z06. So the first ever Z06 was actually introduced back in 1963. It was introduced to be the racing variant of the Corvette. That's carried all the way through. For example, in the C7 generation, the previous shape, the last front-engined version of the Corvette, it produced 650 horsepower with a supercharged engine. Now, the stakes are going even further. If we talk a bit about the design, it's actually almost been hiding in plain sight with the C8R race car. You can see a lot of those design elements from the race car are now here in the Z06, and that's made possible thanks to a lot of shared components, for example, the chassis, and a very similar engine architecture as a result. But this is significantly wider than the Stingray. This car is about 3.6 inches, which is 9.4 centimeters wider in total than the Stingray in terms of track and the bodywork. It obviously has a new look front and back, new front apron, new rear apron, some design elements that we saw in the C7 generation, the flicks, the wing, the extra aggression that comes from it, but still with the quad tailpipes found in the center. It has a standard reconfigurable spoiler and then the optional Z07 package that brings the much larger fixed wing that you find at the back. It's the first production Corvette to feature 21-inch wheels at the back, 20-inch wheels at the front with a host of different options, including a lightweight carbon fiber one. And in fact, the rear tires, which can be had as the Cup 2R ZPs, the zero pressures, the rear tires are 345 wide. That's very, very, very wide to help get that grip down onto the tarmac. And I think with the Cup 2R ZPs, it gives a bit of a statement of intent as to what they're hoping this car is going to be able to achieve. It also has the Magnetic Ride Control 4.0 for the better suspension management, and obviously the Z07 performance package brings, in addition to the rear wing, a lot more downforce. In fact, 734 pounds, 332 kilos of downforce at 186 miles an hour, that's 300 kilometers per hour, and those ZP tires as well. Now, to talk a little bit more about the engine, the flat plane crank, big change, and it revs up to 8,600 RPM, sounding phenomenal in the process. So 670 horsepower and 623 Newton meters of torque. That is 460 pounds-foot through the 8-speed DCT, but now with a shorter final drive as well, of course being much more set up and honed in for the racetrack. It's hand-built by master engine builders at the Performance Build Center in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where the Corvettes are manufactured, where my friend Stradman went out with his car, actually. I remember when he picked up his first C8 Stingray, and I've seen plenty more owners and customers taking their cars back there to the base, which is always quite fun. And another upgrade that the Z06 carries as well, by the way, is the change from 4-pot brakes to the 6-piston brake setup that it has instead. On a technology point of view, it also brings the driver mode selector where you can change through a number of different settings. You get launch control when you're in track mode, you have active handling, you have traction control of course, performance traction mode, and an electronic limited slip differential as well. I suspect this is going to be quite a fun car to actually drive. But let's take a better look at some of the elements of the design then of the new Z06, starting around the very front. And to me, it actually gives almost, if I can say this, Acura Honda NSX vibes with the shapes that you have at the front. Obviously, the mid-engine configuration means you have a very short bonnet on the new C8 anyway, and down at the front, you have the splitter that extends out below. You have lots of openings for the cooling. You have the flicks around towards the side to help with the downforce, to link up, of course, matching with the rear spoiler. But the shapes that you see throughout the C8 generation cars, these extra creases, for example, over the bonnets, just add to the sharpness. The layout, for example, of the daytime running lights give you more of a sense that this is a sporty car. This was the intention, and that's why Chevrolet went for the mid-engine configuration, because they felt they had basically reached the end of the performance envelope that was available with the front-engine configuration with the previous generation ZR1 that had followed the ZR6, where of course power with the ZR1 went a very long way, and it bodes quite well for where the next generation ZR1 might be able to head as well. We obviously have these carbon fiber wheels now available, significantly lighter than the standard setup. In fact, it's about 18.5 kilos of weight savings by going for the carbon fiber wheel option, which is hugely significant. The standard wheels can be had in a number of different finishes, so there are plenty of options on that front when it comes to this car. Down the side of the car, you have the enlarged and more aggressive intakes for the cooling. Obviously, a lot of airflow that's managed through the side with these Y shapes, almost in a way quite Lamborghini-esque, that give a little bit more character to the side of the car, a little bit more shape to it, while also helping with the intakes and bringing in a little bit more of the cooling there as well. If you don't have the Z07 package, I suppose in a way, I'm surprised that it doesn't look quite significantly more dynamic than the regular Corvette. It's actually almost a little bit subtle, I would say, with the fixed lower spoiler on the rear deck. You do have those louvres on the convertible that you can see above the engine as well. And remember, you have the storage space in both the removable Targa top coupe version and the convertible. You have the storage space that sits behind the engine. You actually have quite a decent amount of storage in the new C8 for a mid-engine platform. It's something I've always appreciated the times I've been lucky enough to go out in them on drives to date. But there's plenty about it, to take a look at. As soon as you put that wing on the back, it looks a little bit mad. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a big fan of cars that have big wings on the back, that are track focused. And I would love to get behind the wheel of this to be able to experience it myself. But a few traditional telltale signs, the Z06 badging that it wears on the side, for example. One of the most exciting things, though, for those of us over here in the United Kingdom is that the new Z06 is also going to be in right-hand drive. We recently had the market introduction of the Stingray as a right-hand drive version, the first ever Corvette to be available directly new here without having to individually import the car. So in total, in terms of options, by the way, there are 12 colours, there are 7 interior colours, there are 3 interior seat options that you can choose from, 6 different seat belt options, 2 different carbon fibre trim packages, plus a stealth aluminium trim option, and 6 available brake caliper colours as well. But otherwise, the car is, I think, going to be fundamentally very highly spec'd to begin with, and we have some fantastic shots just to enjoy the car driving around, to see it on track, and I imagine it will look right at home. That is what the Z06 has always been. That was the reason for its initial introduction way back in the 1960s, and that's why we have the new car now, a car that has been teased for quite a long time. I suppose it's this very formulaic approach, isn't it, with the regular Stingray, followed by the convertible, followed by the Z06, followed in future, perhaps in another 2 years or so, by the ZR1 when that arrives. But these have been hugely popular 2 years into the Stingray's lifespan, and we're still seeing cars across the United States trading over MSRP, which is one of the most extraordinary things. Despite Chevrolet ramping up production, producing many Corvettes, it has been a very, very popular model beyond even their expectations. And I think when I was at the original launch event and we all saw the car for the first time and heard the initial $60,000 price tag that was given to the Stingray, everybody was a little bit in awe at what we were looking at. A car that blends in with supercars for several multiples of that price tag. And now with the Z06, the performance is lifted up to that category as well. And I look forward to seeing some lap times, to seeing how it compares. Of course, it's a little bit heavier than some of the competitors, but not significantly so, weighing in at about 1,550 kilos. And obviously with 670 horsepower and 623 Newton meters, it's going to be quite the drive. Anyway, for now, as I said, I haven't yet been able to head out to the USA, but I am going to SEMA very shortly, and I think there should be an opportunity to see one out there as well. But I hope you've enjoyed this first look at the new C8 Generation Z06. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, I cannot wait to drive one of these in person, hopefully before too long. That's it for now though, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!